Genome parties were always fun, but the aftermath was unpleasant. When Ryan returned to Jamie's place, he found it in ruins. The floor was buried under beer bottles, pizza boxes, trash, and forgotten items. Someone had drenched the sofa in a suspicious fluid, and although DJ Brain had survived the chaos, Partygoer had drawn a smiley face on that surface. Even with repeated time stop, Ryan struggled to clean up the mess. He was still working on it by evening. Lanka sat on a chair, commanding Ryan to hurry as he cleaned the sofa with a mop. Ki Young's rats watched them like spectators at a comedy show. Lanka demanded the sofa shine enough for her to sit upon. Ryan deadpanned a retort asking if she wanted him to clean her royal butt. Lanka declined, reminding him that she had already done her part and that he had skipped town all morning. Ryan mocked her for being angry that he was invited to the big guy's table just before his cell phone beeped. He paused to check a message from Jasmine. Jasmine asked how he wanted his armor. Ryan replied by asking if she had played Fallout. She clarified which Fallout game, excluding Brotherhood of Steel, which she insisted never existed, and threatened anyone who said otherwise. Ryan chose Fallout 2 America for the Enclave. Jasmine said he would look great killing mutants, and Ryan mentioned Jasmine and his big plasma cannon. Jasmine told him to keep it loaded and promised to polish it if he behaved. Lanka teased Ryan about texting his girlfriend during work, noting the sender was Vulcan. Ryan asked if she was jealous and pocketed his phone. Lanka expressed respect for Ryan choosing Vulcan over Livia, predicting Vulcan might shoot him someday, but that his bravery would be remembered. Ryan reminded her that Vulcan had already shot him and joked that he had to work for both of them since Lanka couldn't get a date. Lanka sipped her beer and hinted at the source of the suspicious fluids. Ryan, noticing the sofa mop and Lanka's grin, declared he had paid his debt to society and tossed the mop at her face, telling her to clean her own mess. Lanka complained as she tried to remove the sticky mop from her face. Ryan ignored her and moved to unplug the brain in a jar stereo. Ki Young's rats left for the kitchen and returned with a towel in their mouths, attempting to clean the sofa themselves. Their mistress remained holed up in her room with her boyfriend, but might emerge soon. Jamie had not believed he was promoted until Livia called to confirm it. After a moment of silence, Jamie retired to his room with Ki Young to discuss, but they had been alone for 3 hours, suggesting little talking was involved in their private celebration. When Jamie and Ki Young returned to the living room, the rats had cleaned the sofa enough for Lanka to slouch on it. The couple was so close they were almost touching, and Chitter had recovered from yesterday's breakdown, looking so happy that Ryan thought she might ascend to heaven. On the spot, Jamie announced that something big had happened, which Ryan immediately sensed. Lanka asked what was up besides changing their names to Mr. and Miss Mercury. Ki Young exchanged a glance with Jamie, who nodded slowly, and she revealed that Jamie had finally proposed. Lanka blinked in disbelief. Ryan congratulated them with a thumbs up, while the rats clapped their tiny hands, urging them to tell everyone. Lanka asked Ki Young if she had accepted, to which Ki Young chuckled and said yes, inviting Lanka to be the bridesmaid. Lanka, for the first time since Ryan met her, looked speechless and flustered, claiming she knew nothing about weddings. Ki Young reassured her with a warm smile, though it wavered slightly, explaining that Felix would have been Jamie's best man, but probably would not come. Jamie declared he would ask Mercury to be the best man, owing his life to him, and promised to honor his name. Lanka grinned widely, telling Jamie he deserved the job and that she would have to call him boss now. Jamie admitted he still couldn't believe it was happening. Torn between joy, pride, and anxiety, he looked adorable. When unsure of himself, he marveled at ascending from street rat to Olympian and becoming a capo regime. Ryan explained it was imposter syndrome, like sanity, fake it until you make it. Jamie agreed, but acknowledged he had a long way to go. He spoke passionately about having all the division's resources at his disposal, including millions or billions in cash. Lanka asked if he still planned to invest in soccer games. Jamie replied that they hadn't had a national cup since the Genome Wars, and that Dynamis controlled sports. With the Dynacup, he believed the slums had many talented people who deserved a chance, and was sure one could be the new Maradona. Ki Young suggested charity, detox centers, hospitals, and and rebuilding the orphanage destroyed by the meta gang. Ryan added that Jamie should start with all of Rust Town, calling it the most miserable place he had seen, even worse than radioactive wastelands. Surprisingly, Jamie seemed to consider the suggestion seriously and asked Ki-young's opinion. She told him he should know and glanced at Ryan, asking if he thought the Olympians would mind. Ryan thought it over. He concluded that lightning but didn't care about money but craved power and respect as long as Jamie followed orders and didn't interfere with other divisions. Augustus probably wouldn't mind if funds went toward orphanages or charities. Neptune and Livia seemed focused on expanding the family empire and might approve such initiatives to develop goodwill. He had no clear read on Mars and Venus. However, Bacchus was a different matter. Ryan admitted they would be open to the idea as long as it didn't interfere with the Bliss business. The couple's mood instantly darkened and they exchanged a silent glance. Ki-young persisted, suggesting Ryan talk to Livia about it. Ryan expressed surprise at the suggestion. Jamie explained that Livia seemed to hold Ryan in high esteem but warned him to be careful as she was her father's favorite and he didn't tolerate disrespect. Lanka laughed, telling Ryan not to worry because Vulcan had already confronted Augustus first. Ryan glared at Lanka for revealing this and apologized to the mice in the room, calling them some of his best friends. Ki-young smiled warmly, saying she had sensed something would happen between Ryan and Livia because the tension was palpable. Jamie warmly put a hand on Ryan's shoulder, expressing gladness that he had found someone and hoping the relationship would last and make him happy. The courier replied that he would retire before Ryan gave him diabetes as he carried his brain in a jar to the garage. Once he left the main room, the trio continued discussing the wedding's date and logistics. The garage had been locked during the party, sparing Ryan's car from the guests' attention. If Lanka had used his backseat for her vile, sticky deed, the time traveler might have gone on a suicide run out of rage. 30 minutes later, the courier plugged the brain back in and sat at the driver's seat, turning on the chronoradio instead of the usual funny alternate universe songs. A faint voice emerged. The voice greeted Ryan as Riri. Ryan checked the garage door was closed and increased the volume. He recognized the voice as Len's and asked if it was really her. She confirmed, appearing hesitant and awkward since they hadn't spoken for days. To spare her embarrassment, Ryan asked about the kids. Len said they were still adjusting but loved the place and had played board games, mentioning Sarah thought Ryan would love them. When Ryan asked if he was invited, Len hesitated but said maybe changing the subject. Len said Vulcan had contacted her about the meta gang and that she had followed their submarine to a hidden tunnel beneath the city. Ryan confirmed it led toward the bunker and asked if she had told Vulcan. She had not, preferring to tell Ryan first. Ryan admitted to attacking Dynamis with Vulcan to borrow one of their suits, calling it a sort of date. Len did not respond and the line went static for a moment before she said she was happy for him and that he deserved happiness. Her voice broke Ryan's heart. He asked if Shorty knew about the attack. He had not told her, glancing out the garage's cold walls, admitting that things always ended the same way. Though he enjoyed Jasmine's company, Ryan would stand against the Augusti to achieve his perfect run. He worried that despite good intentions, he and Vulcan might end up on opposite sides, as had happened with most of his relationships. Len suggested maybe not this time, implying a solution. Ryan asked if she had found one. She explained her idea since Ryan created his time stop by aligning his two selves so that both time periods interact for 10 seconds. He might send signals like the chronoradio does back to the past. Len elaborated that Psyshock could overwrite minds by altering brainwaves and neural signals without physically changing the brain. If they made a snapshot and sent that information back to a compatible vessel like their own nervous system, they could send someone's consciousness back in time. Ryan questioned the feasibility, noting the complexity of copying a human mind and guiding it through a temporal anomaly to transfer to the past self. Len admitted she could only handle navigation through the anomaly and would need other geniuses' processing power and time to complete the design. She offered to upgrade the chronoradio to send signals back to a target and had already written the design which she could send to Ryan. She compared it to communicating through water or hostile environments, harder but doable. Ryan asked if it could be completed in this loop before everyone forgot lens. Silence implied doubt, but mentioned one place that might have the technology. Mecran's bunker, where the meta gang would be. Ryan doubted he could defeat all the psychos there, especially Frank and Hannafat Lecter, who would likely use hostages. Again Len offered to help, reminding him he had helped defend the orphanage. Ryan warned her not to die in front of him again. She replied she could take care of herself, and noticed his hesitation, asking if it was again. He did not respond, but thought of the Dynamis loop where acid rain had destroyed them. Len suggested asking the Augusti for help, but Ryan refused, unwilling to give them access to Mecran's armory, especially after seeing lightning, but he feared Augustus would use the technology to cause more death. Len reminded him that once he had the design, he would have to restart afterward to avoid disaster, and she would forget him again. She said she did not want to be a burden. Ryan sighed and asked for time to figure it out, hoping Vulcan's armor or another option might help. He told her not to mention the meta gang or the bunker, yet Len agreed and said she was there if he needed anything. The chronoradio then played melodramatic cyberpunk tunes. Len did not fully grasp the responsibility Ryan bore. He could spare everyone and find the perfect scenario, but if he saved on a suboptimal route, the consequences would be on him. Lives lost would be forever gone, and he would have no excuse. Ryan admitted to himself that this loop was good, very good, but it would not be perfect. Meanwhile, sitting around Vulcan's workbench in the depths of her lair, two genomes brainstormed over a sketch, struggling to solve one of the world's most important questions: how many guns could fit into one power armor. Ryan suggested adding rocket launchers to his armor design while discussing it with Vulcan and Jasmine at Vulcan's workbench. Vulcan had chosen a design fitting Ryan's body more like an exoskeleton than a massive mech. Ryan described two hidden switchblades below the arms, a large chest blaster, and mounted turrets. Jasmine grinned and reminded him that the goal was to increase his power, not to destroy half of Rome. Ryan joked that he could settle for just taking down the Dynamis HQ. Vulcan added that would require a bigger nuclear-powered laser. Ryan deadpanned that they should call it the Chernobyl and wondered if any genomes might survive it. Jasmine replied that they would become radioactive, and if the laser didn't kill them, cancer would. Ryan looked at Jasmine with respect, calling her cruelty and art. Jasmine admitted she could even design a cancer ray, which she found disturbingly exciting. The two genomes spent the day designing weapons of mass destruction together, growing more familiar after Ryan had spent most of the weekend at Jasmine's place. Jamie was busy with his promotion, and Dynamis had yet to retaliate, while Vulcan had ordered Ryan to lay low as best he could. Jasmine brainstormed aloud about containing the hypothetical violet flux energy, referencing Ryan's plushie that sealed a creature from the violet dimension. She proposed combining their technologies to design something that would contain and amplify this energy inside Ryan instead of dispersing heat. Ryan responded with amusement, enjoying her dirty talk. Jasmine trembled with excitement, declaring they would discover the source of powers and change the world, or rather own it. Ryan asked if she would change her power if she could trade it. Jasmine said no, though she wished she had gotten it earlier and wondered how her state of mind had affected her power. She then asked Ryan, who admitted he had loved and hated his power but now saw it as part of himself. Vulcan noted Ryan was a private man. Jasmine declined to be his psychiatrist, insisting everyone was on their own. Ryan admitted he wished he could count on someone long-term. Jasmine shared her own disillusionment, saying the only things one could trust were those they made themselves, pointing to her mech. Ryan agreed, comparing it to his car. Ryan explained the hedgehog's dilemma to Jasmine. Two hedgehogs want to share warmth but hurt each other, with their spines symbolizing the difficulty of closeness. Jasmine asked if they were the hedgehogs, and Ryan said yes. She called it pessimistic. He said it was experienced. Despite his doubts, Ryan hoped Jasmine's armor technology would produce results and believed things could improve. Ryan faced deadlines. Hannafat Lecter remained inside Mecran's bunker, and Ryan saw no way to evict him without casualties or revealing the base. The best plan was to recruit Shroud for an invasion, but the glass manipulator refused to act without his team, and Leo Hargraves wouldn't strike new Rome until next week. Ryan told Jasmine that her power wasn't just from the potion, but partly random and unique to the person and circumstances. Jasmine frowned, skeptical that experiences couldn't be exactly repeated. Ryan confirmed he had tried, but concluded it was impossible to replicate powers precisely. Jasmine sat on Ryan's lap, and he put his arms around her waist. She asked if someone else had gotten her elixir, would they have become a weapon genius? Ryan said, no, the elixir adapted to the individual, and once a unique power was assigned, no one else could get the exact same one. Jasmine recalled Augustus managing to use 2 elixirs without going crazy due to a genetic quirk. According to Dynami's research, she rested her head on Ryan's shoulder and asked how he got his power. Ryan said a friend found his elixir among 3, and he took it while escaping a hopeless situation. He lamented Len's tragic power. Jasmine scowled and said she had stolen her elixir while fleeing Libya, describing it as worse than Italy during the wars, now controlled by tribes and marauders under Dynami's oil field dominance. Ryan joked that couldn't be worse than Monaco, warning her never to go there regardless of desperation. Jasmine chuckled at his cryptic warning and asked him to comb her hair. Ryan complied playfully, gathering her hair into a bun while examining the neural interface beneath them. He asked if she could make a second one. She said yes, but admitted it wasn't really her technology. It belonged to Dynamis. She explained Hector's decade-long project aimed at downloading minds into new bodies to achieve immortality by scanning and transferring whole brains, suspecting he didn't want his sons to inherit anytime soon. Ryan remarked that corporations would eventually find a way to trademark humanity. Jasmine explained that even if Hector wanted to, no one could replicate his work because a brain was incredibly complex, doubly so for a genome, and they needed cloned bodies that their eerie Dr. Tyranno could provide. She shrugged and took a sip from her water bottle, mentioning that the machine-human brain interface was one of their milestones, though she wasn't sure how much progress had been made since she left. Ryan asked if she had remade the device from memory. Jasmine modestly replied that while she was a weapon genius, she was also a genius in general. She expressed interest in Ryan's chronoradio brain interface, noting that her human reaction time couldn't fully keep up with her armor when using manual controls, but with a perfect interface things could improve. Ryan posed a question about what would happen if they each wore an interface connected to the other's brain and then engaged in child-unfriendly activities. Jasmine smirked slyly and kissed him lightly, saying they would have to try for research purposes, but that would have to wait since it was almost time to go to Ischia Island. Her boyfriend froze, time to dispose of her empty bottle, when Ryan asked if his cashmere suit would protect him from radiation. Jasmine smirked and said no, but assured him her mech would. They made a true winning team. The day was set for the Ischia Island defense perimeter inspection. Ryan wouldn't be allowed inside the super lab itself, but Narcinia had requested his visit, likely because she felt lonely on the island. Strangely, Livia had given permission and asked Vulcan to bring extra muscle. Jasmine admitted she didn't understand why the princess wanted Ryan to come, and Ryan agreed, suspecting Livia had her own agenda and kept her cards close. He wondered about Livia's power. Vulcan shook her head, saying Livia kept her power secret, but was known as a pseudo-precognitive who could interact with alternate universes, though she didn't advertise. Considering Ryan's plan to destroy the island to settle a deal with Mr. See-Through, Vulcan hadn't received any tactical advice or warnings during failed loops of the junkyard raid. Either Livia lied about her abilities or had severe limitations. Jasmine vented that the inspection was a waste of time since the super lab was as well defended as the armory and her place wasn't haunted. She said an army would be needed to bring it down. Ryan accepted the challenge. If Dynamis truly had a brain uploading project, Ryan would need to pay them a visit. Len had already sent him the design of her communications system, though it was like receiving a car's computerized parts without the engine or wheels having memorized Vulcan's armor design. Ryan thought that combining Len's tech with Jasmine's hooking it up to the chronoradio and stealing whatever brain scan Dynamis had available might mean he wouldn't be alone anymore for the first time in a long while. Ryan Ryan felt hope. The island of Ischia had once been a paradise, a beautiful resort in the middle of Naples Bay, where European tourists came to enjoy thermal sources and fresh air. Somewhere along the way it had turned into a hellhole. Ryan didn't know why Mechren had bombed the island, but the damage was severe. Even more than 15 years later, purple miasma covered most of the area, a toxic plague that had killed every life form, plants, animals, humans. The substances, toxicity, and radioactivity had transformed the island into a graveyard. Thick iron walls with wind turbines circled Ischia's coast.